Well, hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome.
everyone.
Go ahead, Jess.
I was just saying hello.
Welcome, folks, to today's event, our Gain Power Democracy Days ballot measure focus. My name is Marcia Donay. I'm the Capacity Building Director at BISC. I use she, her pronouns. And we're joined by Jess Grennan. Jess, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Grennan. I'm with Simple Majority. I think a lot about ballot measures, and I use she, her pronouns.
Awesome. Yeah, so today we got a packed agenda, great conversations coming up. Jess, do you want to give folks a little taste of what to expect, thinking about, why ballot measures? Why do you do this work? What are you hoping that folks will take away from today?
A lot of times I think we do the work of ballot measures because people are further ahead than politicians on really key issues that affect all of our lives. So we know we need to use ballot measures as a way to really get folks into the work and also to move public policy in a way that legislators or elected officials just aren't ready for yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for BISC here, we believe that ballot measures are a tool for liberation, right? And as Jess was talking about, the people are often ahead of their politicians on this. And so this is an opportunity to take something to the people, for the people to determine for themselves how to pass policies or put in place policies that are going to improve their lives. So we are very, very excited to be part of today, where we're going to be joined by experts from all ranges of the ballot measure field to talk about how do we do this and how do we do it well.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about today because we have a lot of practitioners in ballot measure, and we're talking about some of the just nuts and bolts of doing the work around go or no go. How to get into the research, what to look at for signature gathering. Then when it's time to communicate, working with the digital firms, TV firms, and all the other folks.
Yep. And then this afternoon, we'll actually be closing out our day with thinking about the hiring process, right?
Cool.
This ballot measures are unique in the way that they are not about one person, one personality, one vision, right? This is a tool that succeeds when we have a strong coalition and a strong team. Decisions are made by a small group of people, not everybody, not massive collective decision making, but we do have to navigate the visions and the expertise, bring in multiple expertise into these conversations to make the best informed decisions about how to build our campaigns, move them forward, win, and then continue to win after Election Day. That's the other thing that makes ballot measures special, is that it doesn't just end on Election Day. We move into implementation and rulemaking, but we also have the opportunity, win or lose, to continue leaning in and building a better future. So really excited to talk about how do we build the team that we need to be successful, because it really is a team effort.
Yeah, always with ballot measures, it's go, fight, win, implement. And ballot measures are interesting mixes of hardcore campaigns and almost like a Senate race, and then also a legislative fight that you're doing in the middle of it, because what's happening in the legislature can really wreak havoc on what you're doing. And then the massive coalition work that you do with ballot measures. And, there are some real benefits of it not being a candidate. I've never had to talk to a ballot measure about making sure their son wears pants to an event, which I have had to do in candidate work. So
yes, for sure. There's a lot of things that make ballot measures unique. But that is what we're here for. Jess is bringing many, many years of experience and expertise, having worked on multiple ballot measures across multiple states. BISC, we're here because we've been around for 25 years thinking about ballot measure strategy. How do we do this work? How do we do it well? How do we embed our values and equity into every approach and every piece of these campaigns so that at the end of the day, we're winning stronger than we came in?
Yeah, the key is not just to win the moment of the election day, which is very important, and I'm very obsessed on it right now, but it's also how are we winning the movement? How are we strengthening? How are we providing that the next legislative session, we have all these activists and grassroots supporters that want to go testify to protect the ballot measure they just worked their asses off for. How are we training the next round of campaign managers that they are learning like all the parts of a ballot measure that we think about, from qualification to making sure the getting the language right, working with on ballot arguments, right? All those pieces, and how really that we're imparting that knowledge, and that the calendar of ballot measures is different than candidate campaigns. Like our massive field work often happens at the earliest part of the campaign just to qualify.
Yeah. And that's why we're having this. Oh, sorry, Jess, go ahead.
I was just saying that's what I think makes ballot measures really interesting. And if you haven't done them before and you've done candidate work, there is definitely an adjustment to your thinking about how we win these ballot measures.
Yeah. And that's why we're having this conversation at this point in the cycle, right? A lot of folks don't, may not be thinking about the ballot measure as something that they need to pay attention to until we're closer to election day. But as Jess was talking about, we got to get these things on the ballot. That is the first and biggest hurdle that you will face in these campaigns. And so that's why today's conversation is really focused on how do we qualify these measures, from signature gathering to how do we do that issue education, campaign education, voter engagement, starting at the front end. And again, like building the team to be successful early. One of the things that BISC has learned through through the last 6 cycles of doing deep analysis on ballot measure campaigns, what works, what didn't work, what do we need to invest in the future, is that when we are to set ourselves up for the best chance of success, we need to be out there early, setting the narrative, defining the conversation, not waiting until our opposition does so. And that applies to both proactive campaigns, but also defensive campaigns. And so that is why we want to make sure that we're having these conversations early enough to be thinking about what is the strategy to win, even before something's on the ballot.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about doing the next phase of the ballot campaign that will focus more on voter guides and those pieces, TV, and all the other pieces we need to do. So it's exciting.
Yeah, well, we are excited for today. Jess, I don't know if there's anything as people are going in, like if there's like one thing you want folks to be thinking about over the next couple of hours while we're together, you want to lift up.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think a lot about when thinking about ballot initiatives is knowing what power you have. Know what power you have with your coalition, with your folks on the ground. Know what power you have with your donors. Know what power you have with the existing laws, and like really get in with your lawyers on what can we do? What can we always be doing to make the language better? How are we protecting ourselves? How are we having those early conversations? But I think really be able to build out a plan based on like what power you have is really important with these ballot measures. And I think that's across the board, and really know the rules of your state. Yes. They're different in every, in Colorado, for instance, we get our language approved before we start collecting signatures. Arizona, the language is approved after the signature program. So really just knowing the rules of your state and where you have to really build up for, I think is super important.
Yeah. Hi, Amy. Hey, Amy, we went ahead and kicked off. If you want to introduce yourself.
I'm so glad you did. Apologies. This is clearly not the time for me to have internet problems, and no one else was having it. So I think it was my computer. Everyone else here was fine. So I had to do a hard reset. But it's good to see you both. For these sessions to get started, and very happy for this collaboration with both of you. Thank you, Jess. You were the inspiration for this day.
My obsession on ballot measures.
You've done so much, especially while I know you had a million other things going on. So I just want to thank you both for that. I don't know if you had a chance, that you're both new to this as well. So one thing to know, this works more like a Zoom webinar than a meeting. So we will have some people who will come and go, and then people can be in the app and see and not necessarily be in the chat. So you'll see the number go up and down, but we will be able to engage, and we've got Christine and Allison as well. So happy for everyone's support here. I think these are sessions, in so many ways. And obviously, Marcia, you have Road Ahead coming up, and it's an amazing event that I can't even count the number of times I've gotten to be at. But I really feel like there aren't too many sessions like these where you get to talk about the qualifying process and kind of opening it up. And I do think that for many initiatives, so many people start to engage after they have qualified and don't necessarily begin where we're starting today with the qualification process, right? They come in once it's already on the ballot. So, and you two know how important this phase of the campaign is. And I actually do believe this is a campaign too, right? The qualification part. And we've all been part of campaigns where I have a few that come to mind where I feel like we worked for a year or two and then didn't go forward, and for good reason, right? It didn't make sense to go forward. The timing was off. Maybe the language was off. The coalition wasn't together. There were lots of reasons. The year didn't feel right, and so I'm really glad to kind of open up the hood, so to speak, to this part of the process and engage. And I'm super excited for the panels that we have. We have amazing people. That's, I think, another thing is there are not enough opportunities to engage with the people who do this. And I know a lot of people have this sort of virtual fatigue for some of these events, but I really love them because we can bring together so many people from so many different places at the same time, and so it's really exciting. I know we've got panelists today from quite literally all over the country, and in my case, the world, still sitting in Rwanda for another about 24 hours before I head back to the States tomorrow. So happy. Do you two have questions? I know, like I said, part of this intro was really just more to also just talk about the tech and how to engage. Folks are going to be able to ask questions. The one problem I will say, or one critique I have of this particular platform is that we as speakers are not able to reply in the direct chat without logging in separately. So I just wanted to flag that. I'm going to log in on a separate browser as a regular participant, so I can do that as well. But if you guys have, and I should say this for moderators as well, if we have links that people want to, add later, we can add that, or we can just flag it in our private channel that we can then make sure it goes up in the group chat. So that is my one complaint about this particular platform.
I think we'll figure it out. It sounds pretty, and we have the Slack channel too.
Yeah, I mean, this was just an opportunity to make sure folks understood how it worked. It'll also be available afterwards, both in the app, and we will publish it all to YouTube as well. So it can be shared with anyone who missed it. I know I got a lot of private messages for folks who weren't able to watch live, but wanted to make sure we were recording, so we are. Anyway, I'm really excited. You guys already chatted a little bit, so I'm not sure. I don't want to repeat stuff you might have already said, but I know that we will have more folks in the regular panels anyway. There wasn't a particular agenda, just making sure folks got situated and ready here and gave an overview.
Yep. Yeah, we went through some of the top lines of things to think about with ballot measures, and for folks that might be tuning in at this point. Yeah.
Excellent. Just while we have you, Marcia, it might be a good opportunity too to talk about Road Ahead if you didn't. If folks don't know about it or haven't participated in it before.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Road Ahead Conference is BISC's premier event. Happens every year. We are returning once again to Las Vegas, Nevada, April 9th through 11th. And it is the only conference that solely focuses on ballot measures. So we've got, ballot measure practitioners, ballot measure experts, ballot measure consultants and vendors and state partners who are trying to build something even already for 2026 or 2028. We've got funders in the room. So this is the space where everybody comes together, gets to commingle, think about the future, highlight best practices, lessons learned, because we are continually learning every single year. There's always something new. And then begin to make connections. So that way, as we were talking about earlier, Amy, Jess, and I kept focusing on, this is a team effort. Everybody who touches these ballot measures plays an important role in their success. And so that's also a space where you can connect and start to build that team, or expand out your team, because there are going to be some state-based conversations where folks will be able to think about regionally or across states that may have similar political environments, or are facing some similar challenges with their ballot measure process. As Jess said, every state has a different process. It is unique, but there are definitely universal themes that folks can learn from and share with each other. And then we're also going to have some issue-based conversations. So top conversations that are happening on the ballot around abortion and reproductive rights, around democracy, around the attacks on the initiative process itself, as practitioners have gotten, as state leaders have gotten better at using this tool to pass bolder policies that make real impact on people's lives. We're seeing a backlash from some state legislators who are trying to take away the people's power, the people's tool. And so how do we counter that? How do we fight back and make sure that we can preserve this for future efforts? So lots of great conversations that will be happening over those 3 days. And also, it's Vegas, which can be really fun. And in April, it'll be hopefully lovely weather. And we'll have a party at the pool of the hotel later during the second day of the conference. And it's going to be really fun. I know Amy and Jess have been there multiple times. Jess will be on one of our panels. And we'll also, some of the panelists that we'll hear from today are also on some of those panels, which is very exciting.
I'm excited for the repro panel. It was a nice pre-meeting with all the campaign managers.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. Really brilliant folks.
It was half speaker prep, half therapy.
Yeah. Isn't that what most of these conversations become?
Well, I'm, like I said, super excited today to be doing this in collaboration. It's worth noting, since I didn't start and joined at the beginning here, even the context for why we started to do this particular event, and it's evolving. But Gain Power launched. So we're coming up on our 4th anniversary as Gain Power, the successor to Democratic Gain, which is over 20 years old now. But we have been a platform for people to hire talent all over the country, for all sorts of organizations, campaigns, and consultants. And what has evolved over the last few years is that a lot of people who come to us to find talent also come to us to hire consultants or products or service or ask our advice. Some of it's because it's obvious those same organizations or same companies and vendors and folks have been using our platform for the job. So we really started to think through that there wasn't a space that existed dedicated to progressive consultants. And we all know the consultants, I speak obviously as one of them, are always looking for opportunities to market and to find their way in places. And I think particularly the last few years with the pandemic and so many of us moving into remote environments, it's really difficult to network and to market and to get to know people. So these conferences and these events are really important space to build relationships, right? Jess, I actually think I met you at BISC. I'm pretty certain that's true.
Yes, I think that's right.
Our relationship has evolved over
ones at BISC.
So I think both the virtual and these panels are really great opportunities just to learn who people are in the space. Again, I think people are really struggling to connect to one another. It's getting better the last few years, but I still think that people are working and living so much apart. And so we really wanted to create a space where consultants and products could kind of offer their wares. So those of us who are on this particular platform at the moment, we're not seeing the expo, but folks who are looking at it from the outside, there's a digital expo, and a bunch of organizations and companies have been able to sort of put up their kind of like microsites for them almost. And the other sort of frustration I've had over the last few years living in this virtual world is we could do these events for conferences and for other type of events, and they're really built, these event apps are really good for facilitating connections and networking, showing each other there's platforms. This particular platform we chose in part because Netroots Nation has used it for their app for the last several years. And we used it once before and then tried a few others. And we came back to this one because we actually found, though none of them are perfect, I thought this one was really good where people could actually put information about who they were, not just show up for a 1-hour webinar, but actually see each other, connect with each other, learn about who does what. You can put up profiles. You can choose to share your contact information or not, so people can connect. And I make that point for all of us too. You can connect through the app. And so that was part of the impetus. And we decided rather than making it a singular event, we worked with the platform and they said we could essentially have it for the year. And so we've got this Democracy Expo open all year. We're not literally doing events every day, but we're trying to have content, live content like this, at least once a month, maybe twice a month, really making it available. Like I said, there's certainly other ones, but people can come back and look at who was in it, look at the sessions if you missed it, but also connect to the people, see their bios and much more. So it's still a little bit of a work in progress, kind of making it up as we go, but we really liked it so far. And I hope that more folks join it, and folks like these sessions will do more. Like I said, they're, you know, I don't want to say they're easy to put on. Everyone's done a lot of work for this and some of the others as well, but they're not terribly difficult. And I think really create a good space for folks to meet each other and engage. Absolutely. And if you're looking for work, always, you know, post the jobs as well. But this is really designed just to be a place for companies and organizations to get to know each other and network. Anyway, if we don't have too much more, I feel like we could probably pop off and come back in 5 minutes because they are unique links for each session. And so, yeah, we sort of need to leave and we need just a minute break and we'll come in for the first actual session.
Sounds great.
All right. See you.
See you then. Bye.